Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike, and today I have two guests with me. They're coming from the Purview team, and I will start with Alex. Alex, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much, Heike. So I'm a senior product manager in our customer experience engineering team, focusing on DSPM for AI within Purview. So super excited to kind of walk you through and talk about both of them today.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited as well. But Thao, first you, please introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Thao. I am a CXE product manager as well, working with Alex. I work specifically in Purview for AI insider risk management. So excited to have this conversation today.
Yes. And you already had the first acronym out there, Alex, DSP. And I'm not from the Purview world, so please help me. What is it?
Oh, yeah. So it's short for data security posture management. Apologies there, Heike.
Okay. And we are going to talk about two agents. Is there one that we should cover first so that then the second one makes more sense? Or are there two separate agents that can run standalone? Or how does this work?
There are two separate agents that can run standalone. I think we're going to start with our posture agent, and then we'll go and cover our triage agent.
Okay, so when we think about posture, Alex, why is it so challenging for customers to have a good understanding of their posture and also manage the posture in the right way?
Yeah, there's so many tasks that they have to go through, right, to be able to get a firm grip on their posture. Integrations into different data sources, managing all of their data loss prevention policies. As there's new projects that are introduced within the organization, they have to go through and create new policies, right, to be able to look for what types of data might not be sensitive, right? So if they're not doing a good job of inventorying that and kind of managing it throughout that whole data lifecycle, it can be really challenging. And so with all of that, we've been able to introduce a new data security posture agent to go through and basically, rather than forcing a user to understand very, very specific search constraints in terms of like if they were going to perform a search in eDiscovery, right? Like there's a case that legal taps them on the shoulder for to go and perform where they have to know KeyQL to begin that. We can take like the natural language prompt technology through an LLM, and the agent can go behind the scenes to go back and pull the types of information that you're seeking and see if there's any gaps in terms of like labels that weren't addressed through DLP auto labeling, so data loss prevention auto labeling technology.
So the auto label functionality, there is probably rules, right? Where you say, okay, if it is the standard, if it's a credit card number, and you can define yourself. And it still looks into the document to find if a document has these criteria to then label it. Is that correct? Again, I'm not from the Purview world, so help me.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So we have different like rules and conditions for those rules, classifiers. So there's a lot of that goes all into that. So really the whole intent here, right, is let's say you don't have a DLP policy to catch something. When you go through and perform this search, you can quickly understand, hey, is there anything that's, for example, being discussed by an end user that's sensitive, right, that wasn't auto-labeled appropriately? It's also a really, really great way. I like to think of it as an assessment to triage whether or not you need to file an eDiscovery case or perform a deeper data security investigation.
Mhm.
So if you can come back and see that there's true positives in your search, which I'll go through and show here momentarily, then that's a good indicator that, yeah, we need to do a more thorough investigation. On the flip side, if you're not finding any results that come back from your initial search, through that LLM agent, then you know, okay, it's not worth my time to go through and do an eDiscovery case or file a data security investigation.
Okay. And so what is the AI behind that agent?
So it's tied to your Security Copilot workspace. So it would require Security Copilot compute units.
What is it doing in the background in order to, is it going through the documents, is it going through Teams messages, emails, everything that you define as a data source? Understand what is a sensitive topic to then apply the appropriate labels.
So right now it's plug into the most common like N365 solutions, right? So Outlook, Exchange, SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive. The next step then is to integrate more broadly with other Microsoft solutions such as Azure File Search and beyond. And then we'll eventually start, plugging into more third-party data sources as well to reason over. So right now, the types of content that pulls back is files, messages from Teams, as well as any emails from Outlook and Exchange.
So, Alex, I think let's jump into the demo and have a look.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Heike. So yeah, I mentioned earlier, we're here today to introduce our data security posture agent, or reintroduce rather. And this rests in our data security posture management solution, which you can find from our Asset Explorer. So really the whole focus around this, again, is to be able to go in and use LLM natural language to be able to pull back specific types of content that you're seeking to see if maybe there's any DLP policies that were just not set up to catch those types of documents, files, messages, emails to auto update what the sensitivity labels are. It's also a phenomenal way to help effectively triage whether or not it's worth your time to open up an eDiscovery case or launch a data security investigation, which can be super cumbersome from a time perspective. And it's a great way for those that might be new, for example, to using PQL within eDiscovery to go through and do kind of that quick triage, again, to try to find the type of information that you're seeking and assess if there's really any true positives that it's worth the time to go and create that eDiscovery case. So with that, I'm just going to kind of dive in. So after you've gone through and deployed the agent, right, which you'll do through the agent's icon in the left pane, you'll come in here and the first thing that you'll want to do is define your data sources. And so those are being able to key in on the specific user mailboxes, user groups, SharePoint sites that you want the agent to reason over in terms of trying to find the information that you're seeking. So with that, just as a reminder, this currently today plugs into our M365 Office data sources, so your SharePoint, OneDrive, Exchange, Outlook, and Teams. As I mentioned earlier, we'll expand that to Azure File Search and later third-party data sources. So after we've gone through and made our selections in terms of, in this case, the SharePoint sites that we want the agent to reason over, we'll go through, save those changes. And then here to the left-hand pane, you'll actually see the historical searches that were performed and by whom across your team, with links to insights that you can kind of go through and view a report of a summary of the type of content that was returned and actions that were then taken by data security admin. With that, the next step is then to go through and, put in your prompt, right? So what is it that you're looking for? So in this case, find me the files containing product details and roadmap items related to Project Nebula. And so then we'll go through and hit that blue arrow to begin our search. On the left-hand pane is where you'll see kind of a quick statement of what the agent is searching for with kind of an ETA in terms of how much time it'll take to complete before those results will appear.
So Alex, right now the agent is looking for the data, or is the agent already doing something that I might not want him to do?
So the agent's doing exactly what you put in for the prompt, right? So if you made a mistake with the prompt, for example, or you're realizing, oh man, this is going to take way longer than I was hoping for. Maybe I can fine tune that a little bit further, or maybe I forgot to define my data sources, right? Just know that you have the ability to have some control over this. You can go through and select stop generating and then make your edits and kind of re-begin your search. So,
Okay. So if I look at the regular um, DSP or DLP functionality of Purview, you could also create a policy that looks for Nabula, but it would also apply the labels. What is the difference here?
so this is a great way to know whether or not, let's say in this case, Project Nebula, let's say it's a new project and the data security team wasn't notified of this project. They didn't create a DLP policy to look for anything related to Project Nebula. So it's a great way to come in and review if there's anything missing that would require updates to a sensitivity label change
Mhm.
that can then help inform as well to see if there's policy changes that you need to take. It's also a great way to quickly triage your assessment on whether or not, like an eDiscovery case, needs to be filed. So, in a different use case, let's say legal reaches out and they want to know if a certain sect of employees within the company is discussing this upcoming acquisition and they should not be in the know about it. It's a great way to go through and look across their data, state of files, messages, content, whatever, to know if there is any chatter about that, right? And if there's nothing that pulls back from this initial audit, so to speak, then maybe it's not worth your time to go through and file that eDiscovery case.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So moving on, after our agent's done its thing, it's performed its search. Here we can see all the results that appear back. So in this case, we did find Project Nebula files. We didn't find anything pertaining to messages or emails. But as a reminder, we also went through and defined our data sources by SharePoint sites. So that's likely why there's no messages or emails that pulled back in this case. So if there's anything on here, right, that you wanted to update to a higher sensitivity, let's take our financial projections Nebula Excel file. We can go through and make that selection and then update the label to confidential Contoso extended. Whenever you go through and try to make a label change from the results that return, by default, the owners of those files will be notified of the sensitivity label change. So that being said, if you are doing anything that you want to remain sensitive from those file owners, just be sure to uncheck it before you go through and change the label. So now we can see that this moved from a general to a confidential sensitivity label.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to touch base on is that you have the ability to kind of key in on a report of a summary of what was returned from the search and then any actions that you may have taken as a result of the agent's results that appeared, right? So if we go through and had selected view insights in this case, we can see our posture agent report to the right. So it gives us a breakdown of a summary of the files that returned, an executive summary, detailed findings, total matches, et cetera, et cetera. So if I click through here, here's a better read of the full types of content that appear back in that report. So this is a great thing that you can then present to your C-suite as a result of the search that you performed through the agent and the actions you took.
Thank you, Alex. So this was the demo of the security posture agent. We talked about 2 agents. So what's the next agent?
It's our data security triage agent. And I'm sure many members of the audience will already be aware of this. It actually hit public preview back in March of this year. And so at Ignite, we announced the general availability of this agent, which includes some new capabilities that weren't a part of the initial public preview release. So That's what I'm going to kind of focus in on, specifically around the triage agent capabilities within our DLP solution. And then I'm going to pass it over to Thao to talk about more of the automated remediation workflow that she'll talk through. That's completely new and super exciting for our users.
Before we jump into just what has been added, can you do a quick, in the nutshell, what is the security triage agent for people that might have missed the announcement in March?
Yeah, of course. So basically, what the agent does is it goes through and triages all the different DLP. So again, data loss prevention alerts that hit the queue, and assess whether or not those should be needs attention that require human review, that are higher risk, right, or less urgent. So what we've found just from talking with our customers is that 60% for sure, a lot of those alerts just don't even get to be triaged because they're so overwhelmed by the amount of alerts that hit the queue in the first place. So they really need some more support and help. And this is where an agent can kind of come in and help do that effective triage, right? And even if they hire more people, that's always an angle, but the industry itself just doesn't have the staff. Amount of personnel out there.
No, and you want to automate the things that you can automate and put the focus somewhere else. And I mean, data loss, I think, is the biggest worry of every single company, enterprise, organization, and so on.
Of course.
And so it goes through the alerts and then verifies if it is a true alert, if it is something to ignore, and where does it get the verdict from?
It gets the verdict from the policies that you configure. So you'll be able to adjust what you prioritize as a high priority for the agent to look at.
Yeah. So I mentioned before, the agent now supports eDLP, trainable classifier, and custom sit so that it can effectively triage all the different DLP alerts that are coming in, right, to needs attention or less urgent, rather than seeing that some of the alerts are partially triaged. With that, what I wanted to hone in on this specific slide is that the agent can also help reduce false positives by being able to apply feedback, right? So as a user, you can go in, let's say there's an alert that comes in that needs attention, but the end user, it works in HR and it was associated with the DLP policy surrounding accessing driver's license information. Now that specific end user can access driver's license because they're part of employee onboarding. So moving forward, we don't want to have those data security admins seeing the same alerts.
Yeah, makes sense. That's cool.
So yeah, and so with that too, moving forward, as those alerts do come in and the feedback can then be applied, that as a data security admin, you train the agent, you can then see there's now an applied feedback summary within those alerts. In this case, on the upper right-hand corner, we can see that it was downgraded to less urgent, where it normally would have been needs attention had an employee been accessing driver's license information.
So you're training that thing right now, and I think there is an interesting question. Can you train it wrong? And can you then take the training back and say, oops, I don't want this to just close the alert or don't raise the alert?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, if there was, let's say, somebody new within the organization that made a mistake or made a mistake in just like adding the wrong property, there's different types of properties that you can apply when creating a feedback. You can see on the upper left-hand pane, that's actually a screenshot of the feedback section, right? So you can see all the different feedbacks that have been entered in and by whom and what alerts they're associated with, what policies they're tied to, et cetera, et cetera. So it's pretty intuitive. You can go through and kind of check different boxes to make edits to those existing feedbacks. You can control to delete them. So yeah, you have a lot of control from this page.
Thank you. I think that's always important for customers to know that they have, of course, not just, yes, feed in, but also, oh no, I made a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You also have the ability to kind of key in on if there are any limitations by the agent as it pertains to certain policies that it can review. When you go through and review the agent from the edit agent page, there's a trigger section. So you can select that. And then as a user, you can go through and see all the different active policies and control if the agent can triage any alerts that have those policy matches. And if there's any limitations on what they can fully reason over, it'll show up as limited. And so then the user can click on that and see specifically why it's limited. So then it helps inform them, do we want the agent to be able to triage these associated alerts, or would we rather just have it not be triaged by the agent and have a human come in and review those alerts from scratch?
Cool. And then the last one on your slide.
So this is where, let's say you want to come in and you quickly want to identify any DLP alerts for a specific type of information, right? This one is focused on any SSN and credit card numbers along with PII that's greater than 5, looking at the last 30 days, where you can also define like specific policy matches associated with those DLP alerts. So if you have, in this case, 118 different alerts and you're looking for specific types of ones, it just makes it faster to pull that information back.
Okay, cool. And then you can, the agent helps you remediate those alerts.
So I think that's a good segue into Thao's workflow.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Thao, thanks for sticking with us. And what are you talking about with me? Like the remediation aspect of it?
Yeah, so that's what's really cool that Alex talked about the data loss prevention side. And what's new about this agent is that you'll now see the remediation capabilities here. So you'll see how it's able to integrate with Microsoft Teams in order to alert users about sensitive information that they might be accidentally putting out there in their organization.
So let's jump into the demo.
Yes, let's go in. So this is pretty much the data security triage agent in action, but specifically the remediation capabilities. And so here I'm in Microsoft Purview. And as you can see, I'm looking at all these different alerts, right? So let's pretend that I'm an analyst and I'm going through all of this. So what's nice about the agent is that once it's deployed by your administrator, you're able to start using it. So I'll pretty much just go in and click Start Agent. From here, you'll see that there is different categories in order to see how they categorize the alerts. So the agent looks at all 406 alerts and then puts them into a needs attention, less urgent, or not triaged category. So from here, I'll look at needs attention because this might be something that I want to prioritize. I'll see that it puts an alert here, DLP policy match for an email. So pretty much I'll click here and read some more about it. So this is pretty much all the activity of the agent. You'll see that it creates a summary, which is super useful because if you're an analyst and you're looking at all these alerts, it can be very time consuming, right? So the agent has gone through the alert using activity logs, asset logs, and analyzed content in the context of sensitive information to be able to formulate this reasoning and then give it back to you as a user. So I'll go through this and I'll see that it looks like it's an alert that requires attention here. It has customer data specifically. So very sensitive information from social security numbers, credit card numbers, and other financial data. It then tells you your reasoning in 3 different categories too. So if it's a sensitivity risk, an exfiltration risk, or a policy risk. And this really helps because then I'm able to cut back my time and really prioritize higher value alerts. So the agent has already gone through this and deciphered what's important for you to look at. So at this point, we saw that there's a lot of different sensitive information. And as a user, you may not be authorized to delete this information on your own. So you have this document, it has sensitive information in it, but many times these documents are boxed to that certain team, right? So the document creator might have been only giving this link out to other people. So you as an analyst might not be able to change that information, delete it yourself. This pretty much takes my task to reach out to them and follow up, providing context as to what's happening. So, hey, like I see this financial information in this document, but they might not really know where to look at that, or they might be so busy that they don't take the time to look into this some more, which can be very inefficient for analysts to do themselves, right?
So what do we do?
Yeah, so the great part about this is pretty much you don't have to do anything. The data security triage agent will go in and alert the user themselves.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, super cool. So you'll see that it already breaks down the sensitive information here. So it has the credit card number, the social security number, but on the other side, what it looks like is pretty much that user. Let's say, Heike, you were the one that accidentally put in sensitive information into this document. So
Uh-huh.
you see that there are two different kinds of sensitive information pieces in one document here. So this is Microsoft Teams. It's super easy because, we all use Microsoft Teams here and it meets you exactly where you are. So you have this notification that comes to you where it says that there's two different things pending remediation. So maybe I'll go into here and you'll see that you accidentally put in credit card information. So you'll remediate it, but then perhaps your manager comes to you and says, hey, like I need you to look at a different alert. I need you to do some other different tasks. Well, what's nice is that the data security triage agent will continuously notify you until you've actually taken action to take that out.
I was just about to ask if it will send you a friendly reminder on the above, or like how will it follow up? Also, more serious question, how will it follow up if you took action, that you remediated it? Will it notice itself by continuous looking into the violations, or will you have to click a button and say done, or how is the flow?
So it's customizable to your organization. The administrator will pretty much put how many notifications they want to do on a certain time box limit. So, first, it has two kinds of different limitations. So, the first one being it'll look back into how many certain days that you put. So, if this is like an alert or a piece of sensitive information that you put in the past 30 days, for example, it'll only look up to past those 30 days. And then the other type of time box limitation is that you can put in a maximum notification limit. So you could put, hey, daily that you notify the user that they should look at it. So let's say that you put this credit card information and you already deleted it. Well, that second one about Sam Watson at the bottom, right, will be notifying you daily until you complete that. So pretty much once you remediate it, it won't give you any more notifications. In the background, it'll be marked as approved or already completed, but that little last part with Sam Watson pending remediation about his social security number, it looks like here, will still notify you daily.
And so on the data analyst side, they also have an overview of what's still in the queue, like where is the triage agent still poking the people for actions.
Yes, great segue into this. So pretty much this is what it looks like. You see how before it had two different notifications and now it's separating it to the only piece that you have that's missing here. Next, on the background, once you're able to remediate that, you'll have a dashboard on the analyst side to be able to see how many different files are remediated or files with sensitive info that's detected. So you'll able to track this in a dashboard to see the discrepancy between those two numbers. And then pretty much on the bottom here, you'll see that there's 20,000 files with sensitive information detected. And then, of course, like only files remediated with the agent 9,000. So that's just pending remediation from other users too.
This is awesome, Thao. And as I always know, from, there's something new and automation, AI doing things for customers. What's the feedback that you get from customers? Do they have any concern with like having this run? Do they trust it? Do they time? Do they want to know more? Like, what's your experience with this?
Yes. So I think common feedback from customers is that they find this super useful because it really takes down the time for them to have to actually manually reach out to people themselves, provide that context, and then that be wasted time for them to look at other higher value alerts, right? But something that they kind of want to look into more is customization. So those alerts can be a lot of noise depending on your organization, right? Or depending on a certain person's workflow. So really having an administrator that's able to understand what works best for your organization is really helpful to make it a useful agent for everyone.
Pretty cool. That was a lot for me, especially, and I hope everybody out there less overwhelmed with all the new information. So for both agents, they have to get activated. Customers need to have first Security Copilot in order to then find the agents, activate the agents. Any tips and tricks, any last words that you would like to let the audience know? Like, of course, try it out.
So for those of you that use our Purview and Security Copilot products today, I would just encourage you to join our Customer Connection program if you're not part of it already today. So you can join that by plugging in ak.ms/join CCP. And that's a great way to get in touch with us in regards to like early design discussions that we're having around these agents and other features within our products. So being able to work with you, gather that feedback helps mold these agents into the capabilities that you see here today. So we're always looking for good feedback to make it better.
Yes. Last time on the show, someone said, we don't want to build products that are sitting on the shelf, right? So that's why we need customer feedback to build what customers need. You, Thao, any last words?
Yes, I think the best thing to do is just look at different kinds of agents and see how it better fits in your organization, just because everyone's using AI agents and learning so much about them. So the best way to learn is really just through usage.
Yes. So both Alex and Thao, thank you so much for being my experts on today's episode. Out there, thanks everyone for watching. If you liked the video, thumb up. And also, please subscribe to our channel so you get notified about new episodes. Thanks everyone. Bye.